Hello everyone. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, Using Word Templates in Microsoft Dynamics GP. We appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to join us. There are a couple of housekeeping items. If you could move to the next slide, Philip. All attendees are in listen-only mode. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please either raise your hand and we'll unmute your line so that you can ask the question directly to Philip, or you can type them and submit them through the GoToWebinar question box, and I can filter those over to Philip throughout the presentation. Also, we'll be following up afterwards in case there's anything that you forgot to ask during today's presentation. So I'd like to introduce today's speaker. We have Philip Nichols, who's a principal consultant here at Socius. Philip has over 12 years of experience providing application services with GP. He specializes in human resources and payroll. So Philip, at this point, we're ready to transition over to you to get started with today's presentation.
Okay, excellent. Good afternoon and or morning, everyone, depending on where you might be calling from. Today we're going to be looking at Word templates, basically creating GP reports and getting to use the power of Word modifications in order to make your reports look much more presentable to your client. Okay. Now, before we actually get started, I just want to talk a little bit. Now, you know, usually in Microsoft Dynamics GP, Report Writer is usually the main method of generating any of your reports. So the template-based reports we are going to review today are actually still based on your Report Writer reports from within GP. They're just going to be modified so that you're able to pull them into Word and then modify them even more. And how the system basically works, of course, as you'll see as we go through this, once we turn our reports into templates, and when you generate that report, then the Word template will always come up as opposed to the normal output that you're used to seeing out of Report Writer. So, that being said, since all of these reports are, of course, based on what's currently in your GP Report Writer, they will follow the same basic setup as your GP report. And that your report itself in Report Writer, the definitions are used for, like, of course, specifying things like how your data is sorted, the report section, the fields you have in each section, and any calculated values you may be using on your report. Now, Word itself does not perform any standard report actions. It only displays the information that has been rendered in the template format using Report Writer as its basis. Okay, so at this point, actually we probably should go ahead and ask our poll question first, which is, of course, are any of you currently using any templates at all? And if you could take just a moment to respond to that, please, I would appreciate it.
Looks like most of the results
are in. Okay.
We had 23% say yes and 77% say no.
All right. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. For those of you who said yes, that's great. And hopefully you're going to learn a little more from what we're going to show here. And for those of you that have not started using them yet, then I hope you're able to take away a good foundation for getting started using your Word template. All right, so the first thing we're going to look at are actually the setups. There are two setups that are involved in order to get this running. in your system. They're GP setups and they're Microsoft Word setups. Now the GP setup itself does involve an installation. If it hasn't been done, this is something you will need to do. Let me flip over real quick, and I kind of want to show you what you're going to be looking for. All right, so we are back on my machine here. Sorry about that. Now I have, of course, my own downloaded CD of GP, and this should be somewhere on your system, and if it's not, you are able to download from Customer Source. So let me go ahead and launch that. I'm going to launch my actual setup as if I was installing GP itself. Come on. Sorry about that. Being a little slow this morning. Let me try that one more time. Sorry about that. I'm not sure what is actually causing that to lock up like that. Maybe give me just one moment here. Let's try that again. That's a better response right there. All right. When you actually are able to launch the installation itself, you will see underneath your additional product, there is a Microsoft Dynamics GP add-in for Microsoft Word. This has to be installed, and it has to be installed on any computer that you want to be able to use the Word templates on. Of course, if you're doing like a terminal server or you're in a Citrix environment and everyone's sharing the same server, then you just have to install it the one time. If you're using standalone installs, of course, for every user that wants to be able to modify these reports, you have to run this install on their local machine. So let's jump out of there. And we also have, of course, the Word setup side. And this in itself is not very complicated at all. Let me go ahead and get Word open here.
One question for you while you're doing that.
Oh, certainly. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Somebody's asking if that's true for 2013 as well.
For doing the installs on each computer?
Right.
That is correct. Because when you run the install, it actually creates some local files that are used by the system to create and run the template.
Okay, thanks, Philip.
All right. Okay, I'm just going to open a blank document here just so I can get my menus open. Now, I'm on Word 2015. You have to be on at least Word 2010 in order to use this template. So I'm going to go to my File. I'm going to go into my Options. Okay, there are a few options that I like to turn on because they help you when you see the reports as we get further on down into this. You'll be able to determine more of what's going on with the report, what all the various sections are. So on your display itself, you want to make sure you've got your paragraph marks turned on, turn on your hidden text, and turn on your object anchors. Of course, now, if you don't like seeing them, because you're going to see these a lot, so you might want to have them on when you're like modifying the report, and then you can turn them back off so that when you generate the report, you don't keep seeing them over and over. Our next setting is going to be on our Advanced tab. Scroll down just a little bit. And if you're using like Office 2013, it should look very similar to what you're seeing here. All right, for our show document content, we want to be able to see our bookmarks, and we want to be able to see text boundaries. Okay, and those are the only setups you have to do in Word itself. So let me exit out of Word here. Okay. Now, so what I'll show you, I want to go back into my Explorer because I want to show you what actually happens, since we did get the question about does this have to be installed on each of the desktops. So I'm going into my local Dynamics folder and into my GP 2015 install. Go way down here to the bottom. Well, it's not going to let me see it from here, I'm sorry. Let me change my path. All right. When you run the GP Word add-in install, the system is going to add in a couple of things. Okay. You have the Open XML SDK 2.0 for Microsoft Office. That is added in. You also have your Visual Studio tools for the Office System 3.0 runtime. Now, if you already have the Visual Studio tools installed, they have to be at least version 2.0 in order to assist with generating the report. One other item that is installed, let me get back to my I'll verify that I've got one other file here. There we are. Within the GP folder itself, there's a new executable called Template Generator. And I'll show you how this is used as we get a little further on into our presentation. Okay, so we have our everything installed. Let's actually go into GP and start looking at what you're going to be doing. The first thing we're going to examine is the template maintenance screen. And this is kind of your template control center in a way. Oh, I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself. I apologize. Template configuration is where we're starting. This is where we'll be looking at default templates and images. Let's launch GP. I'm going into my old trusty Fabricam here. All right. The first thing we're going to look at, as I said, you can kind of get here a couple of ways. You can either go to your administration homepage, or you can access menus through the report menu itself. So let's go to our administration homepage. We have two items we're going to be looking at, our template maintenance and our template configuration. So let's look at our configuration window first. All right. Now by default, your templates are normally enabled. And this window allows you to select the default templates that you're going to enable. So let me expand this. It will show you every company that is set up within your database. You don't have to use templates for all of the companies. You can pick and choose where you want them used. When you expand on the company itself, you'll see that there are two folders under each company, sales and purchasing. These are going to be the default reports that are installed with GP. So we'll expand sales. As you can see, there's quite a few in here. The quotes, you can do invoices, you can do order forms, packing slips, ticking tickets, you can do returns on your purchasing. You can set up things like your check remittances, blank transaction documents, and you can do purchase orders. Now these, as I said, these are installed by default, and they're the same for each company. If you want to turn off certain things, say you don't want your check remittance template, like for your EFTs, to be done, you can go ahead and turn this off. Now that will only turn it off for my new company. If I want to have it turned off in Fabricam also, I'll come in here and select it. Now those will no longer be available. Anytime you make a change in this window, you of course always have to save to make sure your changes took. So let's go ahead and save that right now. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead right now while we're seeing that. I've gone ahead and we looked at our list of default reports. And one of the reports on there, I'll show you real quick. Is our statements, our RM statements on blank paper. I'm going to generate that real quick. Now, since this is a default report, it's installed when you're setting up GP. The template is there, it's available, it's ready to use. I'm going to select my destination. My destination window pops up, and template is automatically selected here in the report type because it knows that I have a template associated with this default report. Now, I could, of course, if I wanted to, choose standard, and then I'll get the regular statement like I always get out of Report Writer. But I'm going to leave it here, of course, the template setting for right now, and hit OK. I'm going to hit print. Yes, I do. We'll give it just a moment. It launches Word automatically. And you see the statement itself has been generated into Word. Now the reason you're seeing so many things kind of muddying up your report, because those are all of the options that we turned on in the Word setup window. So if you don't want to see things like this, you can go back into Word and turn those all off, and then you'll have a nice clear screenshot. Of course, none of that will print when you actually print this. You see you've got the statement information up here. You just have basically the same information you're going to see if you print this using the Report Writer generated report. And we'll, of course, do it for all of the people that I had in my selection. Okay. So I just kind of wanted to give you an idea of what that looks like, because we're actually going to make a quick change here. Then I want to regenerate the report for you. So back on our administration homepage and back in our template configuration, there's a selection for images. Images allows you to attach default logos to each of your companies within GP. I'm going to go ahead and here. Of course, I have my two companies. I have no images right now. So I'm going to add one on here to Fabricam. Just select it. I click my green plus. I'm going to go into my pictures. And I have a Fabricam logo right here. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. It adds it in, gives me the path. I'll do the same thing for my new company. I'll again go into my pictures, select their logo, and I choose that. Okay. Now I have a logo that's going to default. And this logo will default on all of the default reports that are in your Word templates right now. So I'll hit OK, save my change. I'm going to go back in and regenerate that report that we just generated. All right, there we go. I've regenerated a report, and now my logo has been added into the header. And it will, of course, appear on every page. So that's a quick and easy way to actually get your logos out there, and it allows you, of course, like I said, to put a logo into each company so that whatever company you're generating this, in this instance, our statements from, their specific logo will be in the header of the report. All right. I want to show you one other thing. Now, as I said, let me expand this again, go back into my configuration. There are multiple reports that are set up that are defaulted into the system already for you. You don't have to do anything to them if you don't want to. But let's say you're running a report and it doesn't actually have a template attached to it. Go in here and run a report. I'm going to run one of my trial balances. I'll do my historical one here. I'm going to go ahead and run it up to the screen. And you see I actually still have template selected here. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to print this report. So what happens is, if you try to print a report using the template generator and the report has no template assigned to it, the system sends them out to Internet Explorer and they're an HTML file. And of course, using the standard report would give you the report that you always see. We'll discard those changes. Okay, let's look back at our presentation. All right. So now we're going to look at the template maintenance window. And this is, as I said earlier, before I realized I'd skipped ahead, this is your template control center. This allows you to work with your report modifications and assignments. So let's get back into, close you down. Okay. Get back over to GP. All right, same thing. This is on your administration tab, or you can get there from going into your reports menu. So let's click on this and open it up. Okay. So when this window opens up, it's always blank, just like you see it here. And what we're going to do is add reports into this window, and that will allow us to set some of the controls for the report. So I'm going to click here, go ahead and select one. I'm going to select one of my, now these are some that I've added in because I was doing some work with these. Once you start working with a report, this list, of course, can get much longer because it'll keep adding them in there. I'm going to choose one of my original ones right now, my ICP link. There we go. All right. So this window is now populated with information about this report. It gives you the report name, what product was used to generate the report, and of course these refer to reports that are coming out of GP itself. Whereas if you were doing, when I show you how you can create your own templates, if you're doing something like a fixed asset report, then your product would be fixed asset. All right, your status is showing you is original. If this was a modified report, your status would show as modified. Okay, here's my name of report, the blank quote. It has an asterisk, and of course the asterisk always denotes the templates that are installed with GP. You'll see a created date and a date modified. Now these reports, these templates right here, you actually cannot modify them as they are. When you click the modify button, you will get an error telling you default templates cannot be modified. You'll have to make a copy of this report in order to do any modifications against it. Now down here in the lower half, again, you've got the name of the template that's being used. You have who it was assigned by. And this, of course, will be your name once you're logged into the system. You have the date showing when it was assigned. You have the company that it's assigned to, Fabricam and you. And you'll see that it's a default in both of these companies. Your default template reports are always set as the default report in the company when you first pull it into this window. Some things I can do here. We're going to go into the assign real quick. I have selections, I have company, I have customer. I'm going to select company. And this, of course, pulls in the information that's showing right here. Basically that I've assigned this report to both of those companies and that it is the default in both of those companies. If I wanted to deselect one of those from here, I could. I just simply click, save, and now it's been removed from the information window. To add it back in, just do the reverse, click on your company, hit new, save it again. Now you notice when I pulled it back in, it's no longer the default report because it doesn't know if it's going to be the default anymore. So I'll need to set that by again going back into my assign window. And I could have, of course, done this at the same time. I click the company name, I hit my set default. It says, is this a report you want to set as your default? And it is. There we go. So now it's defaulted back in just like it was before. All right. I'm going to pull up another report. And this is one of my modified reports. And this modified does not mean that I have modified the template behind it. It means that I'm using one of the modified reports out of GP itself. So I pull that up instead, and again, I've got the name of my report, my product. This one has a status of modified. You'll see I actually have two templates that are sharing this particular report. This one in the top that I've got highlighted is assigned to my Fabricam company, and it is the default. I'll click down here. This one is also assigned to Fabricam. It is not the default. And the reason I wanted to open this, I'm going to, let me flip back over to our slideshow real quick, and then I'm going to give you a quick view into Word itself. Okay. Hope everyone can see that all right. The reports themselves have a basic layout. that they follow. And this layout is, of course, derived from the report layout within GP. You have page headers, report headers, you have the body section, you have a report footer, and a page header. Now we're going to look at the report writer in GP, and if you've never been in there, it'll give you a little idea of how to use it. But there's also the ability to put additional headers and additional footers on report. When you do that and bring that report into the template generator, it actually puts those additional headers and additional footers into the body of the report. They still look the same, it just has them somewhere different than report writer may have. So let me go back to where I was at.
We do have one question here. Did you mean page?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, okay. Did you mean, somebody's asking if you meant page footer rather than page header on that last slide?
Oh, yes, I did. I meant report footer. I apologize. That's what I get for not proofreading my work. But yes.
Is this where we wanted to launch the next poll?
In just a moment.
Okay, sounds good.
I want to show them right here. So I just want to open this modified report so they can see what they'll be potentially seeing when they're using these in Word.
Well, that's all the questions so far.
Okay, excellent. So as I said, this is a blank invoice form, and it's based on a modified GP report. I have two templates that are using this particular form. I'm going to open up just one of them right here. Highlight this one. And if I want to open this and potentially modify it, all I have to do after I highlight it is click Modify. This is going to open this report in Word. This is what a Word template looks like. You see, lots of X's, some header information. That's all that's on here. So this is all you're going to see when you're working with these on Word. Now our add-in that we ran earlier when we did our install into GP, that allows GP to send field and report information over to Word. You can access this information by using your Developer tab in Word. So you click on this, and this is how you can tell if you had a successful installation of your GP add-in. If you do not see this section right here, then the installation failed and you either need to run it again or see if there's some type of security issue or something that's preventing you from having a successful installation. And these are very important because you have your field list and your sources. Let's look at our field list real quick. Again, just to give you a quick idea of what this is going to look like. So this pulls up. Now the computer I'm on has a small screen, so it can't expand as much as it would like to, and you're seeing nothing in here right now. So I'm going to make this just a little bit bigger, and now I suddenly have access to a drop-down. I'm going to open my drop-down, and what I see is the report that I'm working with. It's just the name of the report. I'm going to select it, and now it's starting to pull in the data. You see it's laid out in various sections: page header, report header, header for the item, the component header, multiple footers. And based on which one of these I select, the field window will populate. There are caption fields that you can put onto your reports. Scrolling down, there are actual data fields that you can put onto your report. And of course, as you move through the various sections, you'll see these. Now what you're seeing is, as I said earlier, all of these reports are based on things that are in GP Report Writer. So Word basically is pulling in the document out of GP Report Writer, and it sees all of the fields that are set up in each section of the report within Report Writer itself. Okay, and now would be a good time to hit that poll question, please, ma'am. I'm going to close out of here real quick while y'all get another question. And we're going to come back to this. I just wanted to give you a quick view of what we're going to look at.
Okay, it should be launched now.
Okay.
Looks like we have some answers coming in.
Excellent.
Majority, I'll go ahead and close. We have you modified GP reports before? 45% say yes and 55% say no.
Excellent. Okay. So when you're modifying reports in GP, of course what you're doing is basically taking a copy of a default report and you're adding or removing information to that copy, and then you're going to save it, and then of course you'll be able to choose whether you want to use your original report or your modified version of your report. And these are actually, of course, very important when you're deciding how to create your Word template. So I'm going to flip down real quick. And what we're moving into is, of course, what I'm calling template modification, called template creation. It's basically, how do I take my report, how do I get a great Word template for it? How do I transform it, then how do I finish it up and make it look good? Now this is something you actually will be doing quite a bit when you use the Word template. Since all of the reports are based in Report Writer, anytime you make a modification to that report within Report Writer, there are a few steps you'll have to go through in order to get it into your template and then get your template itself into Word. All right, sorry about that. I had to take a quick little drink of water. All right, so let's go back into GP. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go into Report Writer. I want to kind of show you how I can modify a report. I'm just going to do a simple modification, and then we're going to take that report and we're going to transform it into a Word template. Of course, let's go back in here real quick. You know, as I showed you earlier, you have your list of default reports. And of course, these default reports are based on the unmodified reports within GP. So what I'm going to do is take one of these. I think I'm going to do I'll do my blank quote. I'm going to modify that, and then we're going to turn my modified report into a template so that I'm able to use that modified report. Okay. Now, of course, if you don't have access to modify reports, you'll have to have someone modify these for you. So let's go in there real quick. I'm going to go into my tools, customize, and I'm going to launch my Report Writer. All right, we're going into Report Writer. The product I'm going to modify my report for is, of course, Microsoft Dynamics GP. Now, there are multiple other things. Depending on what modules you may have added into your system, you may have to make a different product selection when you're launching Report Writer. Because a lot of these products have their own report dictionary and they keep the reports separate from the main GP dictionaries. So let's use GP. I'm going to go ahead and launch it. All right, Report Writer opens up. It always opens up this way. You don't see anything except the menus. You're going to click on Reports, and your Report Writer window opens. As you see over here on your left-hand side, that's a listing of every original report that is within your system. On the right-hand side, these are the modified reports that are within your system. Notice I haven't been modifying a lot. I've been flat. Now this is quite an extensive list of reports. And they are actually in alphabetical order by module. So I'm going to go way down here. So I can get into my SOP documents. And I want to do my blank quote. Here we go. Oh, that's a history one. I don't want that. There we are, my blank quote form. I'm going to select this report. Now to start modifying this, I basically just hit my insert button. It's going to move that over into my modified report list. Now even if I don't do anything else from here, that report will now show up within GP as either standard or modified, and it will let me select either one. Now I'm actually going to make a change to this. I'm going to go ahead and click here. I'm going to open it. This window pops open. It always gives you things you can look at. You can see tables that are associated with a particular report. You can see if you've hard-coded any type of sorting onto your report. If you have any print restrictions or anything on your report, you can view those too. You can also change the layout. All right, so here is our report, and this is the layout of the report. You see it's broken up into sections, just like on that slide I was showing you earlier, where you have your page header, you have your report header, scrolling on down. You'll have there are multiple other report headers on this particular one. You see that way down here in the pink is the body. And then of course underneath that there are various footers. Scrolling down a little further, you have your report footer and your page footer. And of course your report footers print on the first and last. Report footer prints on the last page. Report header prints on the first page. Your page footers and page headers are going to print on every page of your report if it's a multi-page report. Now I know if you've never seen anything like this, don't be afraid of it. It's a great thing. And you don't have to necessarily worry about messing these up, because if you just started modifying a report and you do something and you don't like what you've done or it doesn't work, you can always delete the modified report. It doesn't affect the standard report, and you're always able to copy the standard one back in and start your modifications all over. Okay, so in this instance, what I'm going to do is add in a field. I'm going to add my customer number to this report, and all I'm going to do is drag it over. Let it go, and it's there. Now, what you want to do, this is really a good place where like some pre-planning helps, because if you're wanting to do a lot of modification to this report, I would go ahead and add in as many of the fields that you know you're going to use or add or remove from the report. Because as you'll see, once this is turned into a template, if we want to add new fields that were not there originally, we're going to have to come back in here and basically start the entire process all over again. So I'm going to leave this right here, customer number, and I'm going to close this window. First I'll say, do I want to save this? Yes, I do. And I always click OK right here. And now I'm going to go back into GP itself. So just click File, Launch GP.
Quick question here, Philip.
Absolutely.
Do all users have to be out of GP before modifying reports?
They do not. You can actually go in there and modify a report while users are in the system, because until it's saved and security access is turned on, no one will be able to see or generate the modified report. Now, if you're trying to, like, say you've had a backup of your report dictionary and you need to replace your current one, everyone would have to be out of the system in order for that to happen. If you need to integrate a report into your system and you can't get everyone out of the system, there is actually a way to do that from within Report Writer window itself. You are able to copy reports out of a report dictionary somewhere else into your current dictionary without the users having to leave the system. Okay, now before we can go any further, we have to give ourselves security access that I just mentioned. So I'm going to, and again, you may be able to give yourself access, turn this on and off, or you may have to go to someone with more permissions than you may have in order to do this. So I'm going to my tools, I'm going to my setup, and my system. I'm going to go to my alternate modified forms and reports. Put in my password. Okay. Now you may have multiple report IDs set up in your system, and you would have, if you have multiple ones and these are assigned to different people, but you want all of these people to see this report, you'll need to go into each of these IDs and turn the report on. So I'll go ahead and click select here, pulls it up. It's easy, it's just leave this at all products. I want to see my reports. This is going to think about it for a moment. And it's going to pull up this listing right here. This is basically showing every module where I have a modified report. I'm going to click on my sales. My blank quote form is the one that I was doing. I'm going to click on that. You see I have two choices, Microsoft Dynamics GP, Microsoft Dynamics GP Modified. I want to select Modify. I'm going to save that. And I now have access to my modified report. And what I want to do real quickly is just verify that nothing went wrong. I'm going to go in and actually print that really quick. And of course, I'm printing on blank paper because that's what I've been using. And I just want to go to the screen and the standard report. Excellent. You see right here at the very top, that's the ID that I added in when I was modifying the report. I'm just putting it there because it's a good place for it to show, so you'll be able to see what I'm doing here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and pull that back up. All right, your next step. So you've modified a report. You've printed it. The report looks good. I'm going to reprint this real quick. Okay, now this time, instead of actually printing this report to the screen, this is where I start the process of turning this into a Word template. So I'm going to pull it up like this. Leave standard selected. I'm going to select File. The file I want, I'm going to click on my file format, and I'm going to choose an XML data file. I'm going to click here, find myself a location. Now normally you would want to store all of your templates that are being created into a shared location so that all the users would have access to them. But you don't have to move it there right away. You can move it into that shared location later on. If you want to keep it locally until you get it finalized, you can do that. So I'm just going to put this on my desktop, and I'm going to call it Quote. I'm going to click Save. Okay. All right. Now my report has now been turned into an XML file. I actually need to verify that this happened. I go back into my file manager, go to my desktop, and here's my quote XML that I created. And I can actually double click on this. It'll open it in Internet Explorer. And there we have it. You see that I actually did create an XML file. Now normally this works with no problems at all. You should be able to do this all day and not have any issues. Okay. Let's close that down. Let's go back to GP. Okay. So now I'm actually wanting to start creating a template. So back on my administration homepage again. I'm going into my template maintenance. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to choose the report. Now, the report, though, that I'm using is my modified report. It's no longer this original one. So in order to find it, I just go down to More Report. I'll know my product is GP. I'm looking for a sales report. And I want to see my modified report. Scroll down through here until I find my report name. You see this is showing you all of your default ones up at the top with the asterisk beside them. Underneath that, it's showing you every other report. It doesn't show just the modified ones. It shows you everything. And again, they're alphabetical by module name. Oh, I think I missed it, didn't I? That's not the one. Come on. Sorry about that. I went too far. That's all. Oh, good Lord. I'm sorry. I apologize. For some reason that didn't kick in. There we go. Sorry about that. There's my blank quote form that I've modified. Apologize. I'm going to select that one. All right. So I've selected this. And there's currently nothing there. There's an available template, but I don't have any template name right now.
Philip, someone's asking if you can use the lookup here.
Oh. Which lookup are we looking at? I'm sorry.
You said the last screen.
Let me go back to that real quick. The one where we were right here?
Oh, that's
Yes, yes. I see what you're saying. Yes, there is a lookup. So if you know the name of the report you're looking for, you can, yes, type that in and do the lookup from there.
Great, thanks.
Okay. Okay. Modify. Now I'm going to use my modified quote here. Now what we have to do next is actually create the template itself from this modified report. What I do is, well, I'm going to have to add one. I guess it's not letting me put it on here. Give me just 1 second. Something didn't pull in there correctly. Yeah, in my template. Okay. Not sure why that didn't pull in originally. This is actually what you should have seen. Should have gone ahead and pulled in the default template for this form. But as you just saw, they are fairly easy to add them in if they are missing. Okay. So now to carry on, I want to modify. All right, so my report itself has been opened in Word. And I'm going to go ahead and open up my developer tab. I'm going to go ahead and pull in my field list. Expand this a little bit. And pull in the XML resource. Okay. So I know that I put that field into the report header. So I'm going to click there. I'm going to start scrolling down through my list of fields. You see it right down here. And you see it names it a little bit differently than the fields that were already in there. But this is the field that I'm going to want to add to my report. Now, before I can add this field onto my report, I have to change the source to be the XML file that we created earlier. So what I'm going to start out with is originally removing the source. This, of course, will tell you removing this data source may cause missing data on the template. That's fine to just OK through that. Now everything goes away, and we're going to add our source back in. And this is where we'll pull in the XML file that we created from our modified report earlier. I'll click Open. Then I select the report again. You see it's here. Pulls everything back in. I'll put my header, and I can scroll on down, and there's my field again. So all you've done is replace the original XML file for your modified XML file. All right, now I want to add this field onto my report so that it shows when I print. Now here on your Word report, everything here is in a table. The page headers, page footers, report headers, report footers, and the body. They're individual tables within the Word report. And in order to add new fields, you have to create a cell for that information to go into. So I'm going to click in here and do a right click. I'm going to insert a cell, and I just want to push down some of the other cells that are in my table. I'll just click, and so it's added in a new cell line to my table, and it's highlighted it. Now I'm able to drag my field up into my cell and insert it. Of course, here's the name header. This is the control for this field, and it gives you so many X's. Now, if you need to have long fields of information, you want to make sure you set that in Report Writer when you're modifying the report, because if you don't have a long field in Report Writer, it will not carry over and let you have a longer field in Word. And there are some limitations. Some of the fields in GP would let you put in up to 100 characters when you're printing a report, whereas the fields in Word are limited to 80 characters.
We do have one question here.
Yes.
Somebody's saying that they thought the modifications from the report writer would propagate down to the Word template.
They do not. It's kind of a, you have to do them double. That's why it's better to do all of your modifications in GP first prior to opening your report here, because you'll have to pull all of these fields into your report. Okay, so I've got my field added in. I like it. Now I could, of course, if I want to. Since this is Word, I can now free to use any of the Word formatting tools to make other changes to this report if I wanted to. I'm going to save it right now. I'm going to do a file. I'm going to do a save as.
While you're doing that, there is another question. Explain again about the field length.
Yes, field lengths. You have to, in Report Writer, when you're modifying a report, you can increase or decrease the width of a field, and based on how much information is in that field, like say you have like let's say you do a fixed asset, you can get like I think up to 60 characters, like when you're doing a description. But when you print a report about that particular asset, if the field isn't wide enough on the report, you may not see all of the description itself. So sometimes you have to go into report and widen the field so that you can see more of the data that's actually contained within that field. Does that make sense?
I think that's good. Thanks. Yep, you got it.
Okay. All righty. Okay. Okay. So again, I'm going to save this. Now it'll automatically try to save it with the original name, or if you want to, you can change it to something that you prefer. I'm going to call it modified for right now. I'm going to save that. You see it generates it. And now I am free to get out of here. And I'm back at my window. Now, after all that work, I still have to assign that Word template to my modified report within GP. So I'm going to click Add. Go to my desktop. Here's my modified report. It's still called modified. I could change the name if I wanted to. Now, if I do not change this name, it will overwrite the one that's originally there. And that's not a problem. If you want to overwrite them, you can. Or if you want to have multiple reports created, you can have multiple different copies of the same template. I'm going to click Open, and it adds that in. Now, in order for me to use that, I'm now going to go ahead and assign it. First thing you have to do is assign it to a company. I'm going to assign it to 2, and I want to go ahead and make it my default report. Okay. So now I'm going to go generate that report, and if everything works correctly, we'll see the modifications on the Word template. I'm going to print this again. Choose my blank form. And the template is automatically selected. I'm going to run it on. And it doesn't want to generate. Excellent. I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm not sure what's happening here. And I know we're running out of time. Let me skip this for a moment because there's something wrong here and I don't want to troubleshoot. I do apologize. So let me pop something else open real quick. This is actually something I've done, what I was just showing you. My blank invoice form. So this is actually something I have modified just like I just showed you. And I think I'm having the issue because my template originally wasn't there when I selected my modified report. I'm going to have to do a little troubleshooting. And I can actually, Cheryl can give me like your emails and I can actually send you back something to let you know what I had to do to actually correct that, because that is something you may run into every once in a while, is there are issues with either the XML side or the template side and the report won't generate. So there's a nice troubleshooting process that you can actually go through. So I'm going to look at this one. You see I've got this, I've got 2 of these reports. We can look at them real quick. This is one that I modified, and you see stuck here in the middle of the header is my modified form. I stuck the customer number in there. Just kind of give you a quick idea of what the modified field looks like. I'm going to the other one. But this is the same report using the same template, but however, on this one, I removed that modified field that I put on the report. Now, the reason for having multiple copies of the exact same report is you can assign particular templates to particular, in this instance, this is the sale, you can assign this to particular customers. Like this one right here, if I go and look at its assignment, it's assigned to basically every customer in my system. Now I can, of course, change this at any time. Click here. I can assign by customer class. I can assign by customer ID. And you can either, of course, choose to look them up manually, or you can simply leave it, say it's customer ID, you'll hit insert, and it'll go ahead and insert every one of them for you. But after you've decided who you want to see this particular modified report, you'll select them. In my instance, I've already selected them. I go look at this one right here. I go to the assignment. I only have one customer that's allowed to see this particular version of this report. So let's run that real quick. To sales, here's our transaction entry. Invoice. Okay, let's choose this one particular invoice. I'm going to go ahead and print it. Again, I'm using my blank template. Get it up to the screen. All right. Now, it isn't that pretty because I was just like putting the field in there to show you how this would work. But you see right down here is that customer ID. That is the modified field that I pulled onto the report. Let me close that one back down, close that back down. All right, let's go back in here. I'm going to rerun the report. Let's see here, I believe this invoice right here belongs to Aaron. It does. I'm going to print this one. Again, use the blank paper to print, pull the template. Now when this one generates, because I assigned them a different version of that same report, the customer ID no longer shows up. So you can have as many copies of a modified report as you want. As I close GP, I apologize. Let's get back in there.
I do have one question as you're doing that. Can you add new
Absolutely.
Can you add new calculations to a template?
No, well, yes and no. The calculations themselves have to be added to the report in GP Report Writer before being created in the Word template. So basically, what I was saying earlier, you have to actually go back in and do more modifications on your report in GP. You'll need to regenerate the XML file, and you'll need to go through the process of opening it in Word, removing the source that currently exists, and adding in your new XML source in order for the new modification to be generated on your report. And in fact, I would recommend every time you make a change to the report, if you create a new XML file or you create a new template copy, I would do a save as, give it a different name. Because occasionally it does happen that if you're overwriting one of the existing XML files, I have seen it corrupt before, and then kind of like what you saw earlier, the report does not generate. But normally, as long as you do the save as, you have multiple copies of it, you're good to go. All right, back here, let's go back into our maintenance window. I'm going to pull my blank invoice form again. Okay, and again, so I can actually keep creating copies of this template now. I can have as many copies of it as I want, and I can make modifications to each template so that they're different from the ones before. And then I can assign those to any customer I want. So, I mean, I could potentially go as far as like assigning each customer their own invoice template if I wanted to. And I'm using the same report over and over. It's just dependent on what modified fields that I added in GP do I want to use on this particular version of the report. Okay, we've got one more section here to look at. Let's get back to our PowerPoint real quick. Alrighty, we did our template modification. Okay, the very last thing we're going to look at is actually template creation. There are default reports, as you've been seeing all along, that are templates in GP. Suppose you have a report that doesn't have a default template for it and you want to create one. That is where the template generator is going to come into play. Let's go back to GP real quick. To choose, we'll HR payroll. We'll choose, let's get one of our files down here. Let's see what's on our top. I want to verify there's some information on here prior, of course. Nope. Let's see how. We'll do another one then. No. You have some data on you? Yes. It's got a little bit of data on it. Okay. So I'm going to print this report. I'm going to print it out to a file just like we did earlier, and I'm going to create an XML file of this report. Look there, I'll choose my desktop. Don't want to call it that. I'll just call it ACH. Turn it into an XML file. I save it. Okay, so that's been created on my desktop. Now once I create that file, I'll do one thing here real quick. Here's my ACH XML. Now in order to turn this into a Word template report in GP, I'm going to use my template generator. Open up another window here, go to PC. Go to Dynamics. Again, way down here towards the bottom. Here's my template generator. All I have to do is take the file, the XML file that I want to have the system automatically turn into a template. Click on it, drag it over here to my generator. It'll flash for just a second. There we go. Now when I go back and look, I now have an ACH doc. This is the template. It's been generated simply by me dragging my XML file onto that. Now all I have to do, go back into my, let's see here, let me check real quick. I want to pull my report back up real quick, just verify the name of the report I was looking at, which was Direct Deposit ACH Transmittal Report. Go back here, my template maintenance. I'm going to go in and find that report, GP report, payroll report. Direct Deposit ACH Transmittal Report. I select it. So I think there's something going on here because it's not pulling in my template name again. Let me verify that. I pulled the right report. Direct Deposit ACH Transmittal Report. Okay, just a moment. Go back here. No, I've chosen the right report name. See if I can find my Word template. There it is. I hit open. Okay. So now it's there. Let me assign it real quick. And the only thing I can do for one of these is assign it to a company. It doesn't give me the other options because this is not a sales report or a purchasing report. So there's no customers or vendors to actually assign this to. I'm going to make it the default report. Save. I'm going to go regenerate it real quick. And if all of that works correctly, I'm going to get a template from that report as opposed to the GP version. And there we are. There's my Word template of that particular report. Now you can create any report like I just did. Any report at all in GP can be turned into a Word template. And then you can use Word to modify the report as you see fit. I have one of these. Let me just pull one up real quick. I want to show you another report that I did earlier. Like the same thing. I think it's my transaction summary. Send it up. I didn't do much to it, but what I did was, of course, added in my logo. That's my default logo for Fabricant. Things like that, fairly easy to do. You just have to go back into your maintenance window again. You find your report, it's highlighted, you hit modify, and then you can actually begin modifying it. Developer, field list, so I'm able to choose what I'm modifying. I can click here, I have to insert cell into my table. And then if I want to add in that particular logo, I grab my picture tool right here. It inserts that. Once that's inserted, I'll have to go in. Sorry about that. A little click happy. I select it. I can go into property. And I know in this particular instance what I'm looking for is my global logo because that's the one I want to use. And all I have to do is just tell it that this is now going to be populated with my global logo. So let's tell it company logo. Oh, it would help if I learn how to spell here. C-A-L, yes. Global. Company logo, company logo. I can hit OK. As I said, I like to do a file save as. I can change the name if I need to. In this instance, I'm going to call it second ACH document. I can close it. I can either create a new one or I can assign this one and hit new. My second, pull it in. I've got a second one. Okay. I can do one, two. I don't want to rename it yet. I do want to make it the default instead of the other one. I'm going to assign it to company 2. I hit set default. It pulls up. It shows me what I already have as my default. I'll click here to switch them. Save it. Save it. This report is now my default. And this one, of course, no longer is. And if it liked everything I typed in there when we regenerate this report, it will have its logo also. And we have a logo on that report now. Okay, so in a nutshell, we've looked at doing word template. I do apologize for that report originally not working. I'm going to rerun that and verify that and see if I can figure out exactly what happened with that report. But it's fairly easy to do these. Just remember, when you are making changes to your modified report, anytime you make a change, you do need to regenerate your XML file, and then you need to go into Word, pull that new XML file in so it changes your template accordingly and gives you access to all of the new modified fields. Now, if you want to, of course, for further reading, the report writer guide that actually comes with GP, or that you can download from customer source, has about 6 chapters, I believe, on how to create templates. Basically, everything I showed you, but it goes into a lot more depth than what we were able to do in our hour, which is actually now an hour and 20 minutes. So I apologize for that. Cheryl, do you need to take over from here?
Yes, sure.
All right.
I do have one more polling question I'm going to launch. This is just for marketing purposes for us to gauge how we did today. And so we can run those while we're closing. Also, we do have more time for questions. So if you are still on the line and have another question for Philip, we can feed those over to him. And we wanted to remind everyone that we have our annual Aspire event for GP customers coming up. Columbus on May 5th, Charlotte on May 10th, and Atlanta on May 12th. So if you haven't yet registered, go to socius1.com/aspire to learn more information about what sessions we're covering there. Philip will actually be in the Atlanta and Charlotte locations presenting. And then registration does close April 27th, so want to make sure you get signed up for that. And we do have a couple of questions here, Philip, if you don't mind. Is this available in GP 2010?
No, it is not. Started with GP 2013. Oh, 2010. Yes, I'm sorry. I heard GP 10 and I was thinking. I apologize. Yeah, GP 2010 you can do this in. But I will say on the older versions, it'll work the same. You just need to make sure that if you want to like read through the report writer documentation and everything, make sure you get the one for the version of GP that you're using. Because sometimes there are table changes, things like that, that it can affect how the reports run or informational items within the documentation. Okay.
And there's one more question. Can you quickly show how to get into customer source?
I can, as a matter of fact. Now, if you've never been given access, you may need to like speak to your GP administrator or actually possibly your salesperson associate, and they're able to give you access or set your access up. Well, let me go to mine real quick. Let's see here. Of course, I don't remember the exact website, but let me. I'll just type in partner source, and it's going to give me my login here. So what you'll have is the ability to go into a Microsoft website, log in as customer and or partner. And of course, it doesn't know who I am because of the login that I'm using on this particular computer. So I'm going to go in here. So I have an account. And if you haven't been set up with an account yet, this is what either your GP administrator or our salespeople can help you with. These are off. I don't think oh, come on, go back. Oh, it doesn't want to let me log in. Hold on just 1 sec. There we go. I'm in customer source. Basically, you come in here and you're going to be able to find documentation, downloads. You can also have access to a support portal where if you have questions about something that's going on in GP, you're able to go into, like your knowledge base here. So you can always just go to the site, the https mbs.microsoft.com, and then it'll give you an option to click. Are you going to log into partner source or are you going to log into customer source?
Okay, thanks, Philip.
You're very welcome.
We are going to be, we did record today's presentation, so we'll be sharing that later today. And we'll also get over to you the extra resources that Philip has recommended that you look into to learn more. So thanks everyone for joining us today, and have a good rest of your week.
Thank you.